Hello, welcome to this quiet space. If you're listening to this right now, there's a good chance you're lying down, maybe in bed. Maybe it's nighttime where you are. Maybe the room is dark or nearly dark, and you're trying to let go of the day. You might be tired, you might be restless, you might be somewhere in between. This is a place where you can simply be. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to stay focused. You can drift in and out of what we talk about tonight, and that's completely fine. Tonight we're going to explore two things that might seem like opposites: nihilism and hope, darkness and light, the feeling that nothing matters and the quiet sense that maybe, just maybe, something still does. We're not here to solve anything. We're not here to convince you of anything. We're just here to wander slowly through these ideas, the way you might walk through a quiet room at night, feeling your way gently forward. Take a breath if you'd like. Let your body settle into wherever you are. We have all the time in the world. There are nights when you lie awake and feel it. That strange, heavy emptiness, the sense that the world is spinning through space and you're on it, and none of it really means anything at all. You scroll through your phone, you see people living their lives, working their jobs, celebrating their milestones. And somewhere inside, a voice whispers, "What's the point of any of this?" It's not always a loud feeling. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just a background hum, a sense of weightlessness that's not quite freedom and not quite despair. Maybe you felt it when you think about your own life, the things you're supposed to want, the things you're supposed to achieve, and you wonder why. Why does any of this matter? Who decided this was important? Maybe you felt it when you think about the future, the uncertainty, the sense that the world is changing in ways you can't control, and your own plans feel fragile, temporary, like writing in sand. Or maybe you felt it in the small moments, standing in line at the store, sitting in traffic, going through the motions, and suddenly you're aware of yourself, moving through a script, and you don't remember who wrote it. This feeling has a name. Many names, actually, but one of them is nihilism. Nihilism comes from a Latin word, nihil. It means nothing. At its simplest, nihilism is the idea that life has no inherent meaning, no built-in purpose, no cosmic script that tells you what you're here to do, no ultimate truth that makes everything make sense. For some people, that thought is terrifying. For others, it's strangely freeing. And for most of us, it's probably both, depending on the day. The interesting thing about nihilism is that it's not really one idea. It's more like a family of ideas, all connected by this sense of absence. Some nihilists say there's no such thing as objective morality, no ultimate right and wrong written into the fabric of reality. Just human agreements, cultural habits, things we made up because we needed some way to live together. Some nihilists say there's no such thing as absolute truth, just perspectives, interpretations, stories we tell, and beneath all those stories maybe there's nothing solid at all. Some nihilists look at the universe and see it as indifferent, not hostile but not caring either, just vast and cold and unaware of us. Nature doesn't notice us, the stars don't care. We're just here briefly, and then we're not. And then there's existential nihilism, the kind that goes all the way down, the kind that says life itself has no meaning. Not that life is bad, not that we should give up, just that there's no hidden purpose waiting to be discovered, no answer at the end of the book, no reason that will finally make everything fit together. You might be wondering why anyone would want to think about this, especially at night, especially when they're trying to fall asleep. That's a fair question, but here's the thing. You might already be thinking about it. Maybe not in these exact words, but the feeling is there. The weight, the wondering, the sense of floating in space without a tether. And sometimes the most calming thing we can do is name the feeling, to stop pretending it's not there, and just let it be what it is. We're not here to make nihilism sound appealing. We're not here to convert you to anything. We're just here to walk through it slowly, gently, to see what it actually is when you look at it calmly, without panic. because here's the secret that we'll return to again and again tonight. Nihilism doesn't have to be terrifying. It doesn't have to be the end of the story. For many thinkers, for many traditions, the encounter with meaninglessness, with emptiness, with nothing, is not the end. It's the beginning. It's the moment when you stop looking for meaning outside yourself and start noticing what's actually here, what actually feels true, what actually matters to you, not because someone told you it should, but because it does. Let's stay with the everyday feeling for a little bit longer, because before we talk about philosophers and their ideas, it helps to ground ourselves in the lived experience, the actual texture of what it feels like to wonder if anything matters. You're lying in bed, it's dark. Your mind is still running, even though your body is tired. Maybe you're thinking about work, the tasks waiting for you, the deadlines, the emails, and part of you wonders, why am I doing this? What is this all for? Maybe you're thinking about relationships, the people in your life, the conversations you have, and sometimes you wonder, do any of us really understand each other? Or are we all just guessing, performing, trying to connect across an impossible distance? Maybe you're thinking about yourself, who you are, who you wanted to be, the gap between the two, and you wonder, does it matter? Does any of this self-improvement, self-discovery, self-anything actually lead anywhere? Or is it just distraction? These thoughts can feel isolating, like you're the only one who feels this way, like everyone else has it figured out, and you're the only one lost in the dark. But you're not alone. This feeling is old, ancient even. Human beings have been asking these questions for as long as we've been able to ask questions. And what's interesting is that across cultures, across centuries, across completely different ways of thinking about the world, people have arrived at similar places. They've stared into the same emptiness, and they've found different ways to live with it, to move through it, to build something, not in spite of it, but because of it. You might notice your breath right now, the slow rise and fall of your chest, the air moving in and out. That's happening without you having to think about it, without you having to assign it meaning or purpose. It just is. And maybe that's a strange kind of comfort, that beneath all the questions, beneath all the wondering and the worry, there are things that just are, simple, immediate, real. Your body is here, the room around you is here, the night is here, and you're here, in this moment, listening to these words, and that's enough for now. We don't need to figure out the meaning of life tonight. We don't need to solve nihilism or transcend it or defeat it. We're just going to spend some time with it, to let it be here alongside us, not as an enemy but as a companion in the dark. Because nihilism, when you really look at it, isn't trying to hurt you. It's just asking a question, a big question, maybe the biggest question. What if nothing is guaranteed? What if there's no script, no plan, no cosmic safety net? And the answer to that question isn't something you figure out with your mind. It's something you feel your way toward, slowly, in the dark, one breath at a time. We have hours ahead of us. There's no rush. We'll move through different ideas, different traditions, different ways of thinking about this emptiness and what comes after it. We'll talk about ancient philosophers who thought about death and impermanence. We'll talk about modern thinkers who stared into the void and wrote about what they saw. We'll talk about Eastern traditions that have a completely different relationship with emptiness, where the void isn't something to fear but something to embrace. And in between all of that, we'll come back here, to the breath, to the body, to the simple fact of being alive in this moment. You don't have to remember everything we talk about. You don't have to follow every thread. You can let the words wash over you. Let them be like waves, gentle and repetitive, carrying you towards sleep. And if you wake up tomorrow and don't remember much of this, that's perfect. This isn't about information. It's about the feeling, the sense of not being alone with these big, dark questions, the sense that maybe, just maybe, the darkness isn't as dark as it seems. So let's begin. Let's walk into the void together, slowly, calmly, knowing that we can always come back to the breath, back to the body, back to this moment that is real and here and enough. The question of whether life has meaning is not new. It's not something that appeared in the modern world. born from technology or social media or the pace of contemporary life? People have been asking this question for thousands of years, in different languages, in different times, in different places. And what's remarkable is how similar the answers sound once you strip away the cultural differences. Let's go back, way back, to a time before psychology, before existentialism, before the word nihilism even existed. Let's go back to the ancient world, where people also lay awake at night and wondered about death, about time, about whether any of this mattered. There's a book in the Hebrew Bible called Ecclesiastes. It's an old text, written maybe 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, and it opens with one of the most famous lines about meaninglessness ever written. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. The word translated as vanity doesn't quite mean what we think of today. It doesn't mean pride or self-obsession. The original word is closer to vapor, or mist, or breath. Something that's here for a moment and then gone. Something insubstantial. Something you can't hold on to no matter how hard you try. The writer of Ecclesiastes looks at the world and sees this everywhere. People work hard their whole lives and then they die, and someone else gets what they built. Generations come and go. The sun rises and sets in an endless cycle, and nothing really changes. There is nothing new under the sun, the text says. Everything has happened before. Everything will happen again. It's a deeply nihilistic vision in some ways. The sense that human effort is futile, that we're caught in cycles we didn't choose and can't escape, that wisdom and folly both end in death, so what's the difference? But here's what's interesting. The writer of Ecclesiastes doesn't end with despair. After all that reflection on emptiness and futility, the conclusion is surprisingly simple, surprisingly gentle. Enjoy your food, enjoy your drink, love your spouse, do your work with a whole heart. Find pleasure in the simple things because that's what there is. Not because those things have cosmic meaning, not because they'll last forever, but because they're here, now. And you're here now. And that's enough. It's a kind of proto-nihilism paired with acceptance. The world doesn't owe you meaning, but you can still find moments of sweetness in the midst of the vapor. Take a breath. Notice how you feel right now. Your body resting, the weight of the blanket, if you have one, the pillow supporting your head. These small comforts don't need to mean anything. They just are. And maybe that's okay. Now let's move forward a bit, to ancient Greece and Rome, to a school of philosophy called Stoicism. The Stoics thought a lot about death, about impermanence, about how little control we actually have over our lives. One of the most famous Stoics was a man named Marcus Aurelius. He was a Roman emperor, which meant he had more power than almost anyone in the world at that time. And yet, when he wrote in his private journals, his thoughts kept returning to mortality. He would remind himself that his life was short, that death was always near, that everything he had, everything he was, would eventually return to dust. Not to live as if you had endless years ahead of you, he wrote. Death overshadows you. While you're alive and able, be good. This might sound morbid, but for Marcus it wasn't. It was clarifying. Focusing on death wasn't about being depressed or nihilistic. It was about waking up to the present moment. When you really understand that your time is limited, that nothing lasts, you stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop getting lost in petty concerns, in status games, in worries about what people think of you. You focus on what's actually within your control. Your own thoughts, your own actions, your own character. The Stoics had this idea that the universe operates according to a natural order. Everything that happens for a reason, as part of a larger pattern. Death isn't a tragedy in this view. It's just nature. Your body is made of elements borrowed from the world, and when you die, those elements return. You came from nature, and you return to nature. Marcus would meditate on this. He'd imagine his body dissolving back into earth and air and water. Not as something horrifying, but as something almost comforting, a return home. He didn't see life as meaningless, but he also didn't see it as permanent. And somehow, understanding its impermanence made it more precious, not less. Every moment became valuable precisely because it wouldn't last. Every encounter with another person mattered because you might not see them again. Every day was a gift, not because someone was giving it to you, but because it simply was. You might feel your own impermanence right now, in a gentle way, the way your breath comes and goes, the way thoughts arise and fade, the way even this moment, right now, is already becoming the past. Nothing stays, everything moves, and somehow, in recognizing that, there can be a kind of peace. The Stoics weren't trying to escape reality. They weren't trying to convince themselves that death wasn't real, or that loss didn't hurt. They were trying to accept reality exactly as it is, and in that acceptance, they found something. Not happiness, exactly, not constant joy, but a kind of steadiness, a calm in the face of uncertainty. They called it equanimity, the ability to remain balanced no matter what happens. There's another ancient philosopher we should meet. His name was Epicurus. He lived in Greece around the same time as the early Stoics. Epicurus is often misunderstood. People think he was all about pleasure, about indulgence, about living for the moment in a reckless way. But that's not quite right. What Epicurus actually taught was that the good life is a peaceful life, a life free from pain, free from anxiety, free from disturbance. He said the greatest pleasure isn't found in luxury or excitement. It's found in simple things. Bread and water when you're hungry and thirsty, the company of friends, a quiet garden, and like the Stoics, Epicurus thought a lot about death. He had this famous argument, death is nothing to us. His reasoning was simple. When you're alive, death isn't here yet. When death arrives, you're not here anymore. So you never actually encounter death. You never experience it. Therefore, he said, there's no reason to fear it. It's not painful. It's not anything. It's just the absence of experience. Now you might hear that and think, but what about the loss? The things I'll never get to do? The people I'll never see again? The experiences I'll miss? Epicurus had an answer for that, too. He said that once you've reached a state of peace, of freedom from disturbance, your life is complete. It's not about how long you live. It's about the quality of the life you have. A complete life, in his view, is one where you've experienced real pleasure, the kind that comes from being free of fear and anxiety and unnecessary desire. More time is just more of the same. It doesn't add anything essential once you've already achieved that state of peace. This is a radical idea. It goes against our instinct to cling to life, to want more time, always more time. But Epicurus is asking us to consider, what if enough is actually enough? What if you don't need infinite time to have a complete life? What if this life right now, exactly as it is, could be complete? Breathe. Let your body relax a little more. Let your jaw soften. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. These ancient philosophers, the writer of Ecclesiastes, Marcus Aurelius, Epicurus, they lived in worlds very different from ours. Different technologies, different cultures, different problems. But they were asking the same questions you might be asking right now. Why am I here? What's the point? How do I live with the fact that everything ends? And they found different ways to answer. Not with certainty, not with proof, but with practices, ways of thinking, ways of being. The writer of Ecclesiastes said, accept the vapor but enjoy the simple things. Marcus Aurelius said, remember you will die, and let that wake you up to the present. Epicurus said, let go of anxiety, find peace, and your life becomes complete. None of them promised that life had built-in meaning. None of them said the universe cared about you personally, but none of them said you should despair either. They found something between nihilism and naive optimism, a place of clear-eyed acceptance, a place where you can look directly at impermanence, at mortality, at the absence of cosmic purpose, and still choose to live well. Not because you have to, not because someone's watching, but because you're here, and while you're here you might as well be present, you might as well be kind, You might as well notice the small beauties that appear and disappear like breath. The night is still here, you're still here, and we have more to explore, more traditions, more perspectives, more ways of sitting with this ancient question. But for now, just rest in what we've touched on. The old wisdom, the sense that you're not the first person to feel this way, that countless others have walked this path before you, in their own time, in their own way, and they made it through. They found peace or something like it, and so can you. Let's move forward in time now. Centuries pass. The ancient world fades into memory. Europe moves through the Middle Ages, through the Renaissance, through the Enlightenment, and something shifts, something fundamental. For most of Western history, the question of meaning had an answer that most people accepted. God, a divine purpose, a cosmic order designed and maintained by a creator who cared about human life. Even if your individual life was hard, even if you suffered, there was a story that made sense of it. You were part of a larger plan. Your soul mattered. Your actions had eternal consequences. The universe was not indifferent. But slowly, over centuries, that certainty began to erode. Science offered new explanations for how the world worked, explanations that didn't require God. Philosophy questioned old assumptions, and gradually, for more and more people, the divine presence that had anchored meaning began to fade. And then in the 1800s, a German philosopher named Friedrich Nietzsche looked at this fading and said something that shocked people, something that still shocks people today. He said, God is dead. Take a breath. Let yourself settle. These are big ideas, but we don't need to grasp them all at once. We're just walking through them slowly together. When Nietzsche said God is dead, he wasn't being literal. He wasn't claiming that a divine being had existed and then somehow stopped existing. He was describing something cultural, something psychological, something that had happened in the hearts and minds of modern people. The idea of God, the belief in a transcendent source of meaning and value, had become irrelevant for many people. It no longer structured their lives. It no longer answered their questions. It no longer made the world make sense. And Nietzsche saw this as catastrophic. Not because he wanted to bring God back. He didn't. He was not a believer. But he understood what this meant. If God is dead, if there's no transcendent source of meaning, then where does meaning come from? Where do values come from? How do we decide what's right and wrong, what's important and what's not, what we should live for? For centuries, Western civilization had built its values on a religious foundation. Love your neighbor because God commands it. Don't murder because it's a sin. Human life has value because humans are made in God's image. But if that foundation crumbles, what happens to the values built on top of it? Nietzsche's answer was dark. He said that without God we're facing nihilism, a complete collapse of meaning, a void where certainty used to be. He imagined a madman running through the marketplace shouting about having killed God, asking, "How could we drink up this sea? Who gave us the sponge to wipe away the entire horizon?" It's a haunting image. The horizon wiped away, no direction, no up or down, just infinite, disorienting space. And Nietzsche worried that people didn't understand what they were facing, that they had let go of God casually without realizing the consequences, that they were standing at the edge of an abyss and didn't even know it. You might feel that abyss sometimes, that sense of groundlessness, that feeling of floating in space with nothing to hold on to. It's not a comfortable feeling. It's the dizziness of freedom, as another philosopher would later call it. The vertigo of realizing that nothing is given, nothing is guaranteed, and you have to decide for yourself what matters. But let's pause here for a moment. Let's notice something important. Nietzsche was warning about nihilism, but he wasn't advocating for it. He wasn't saying, God is dead, therefore give up. He was saying, God is dead, therefore we have an enormous challenge ahead of us. His life's work was trying to figure out how to create meaning in a world without God, how to affirm life without needing a cosmic guarantee, how to find value in existence itself, not in some other world beyond this one. We'll return to his answer later. For now, just sit with the question he raised, the question that defines modern nihilism. If there's no external source of meaning, What do we do? Before we move forward, let's meet another thinker. Someone who lived a bit earlier than Nietzsche, but who wrestled with similar questions in a different way. His name was Søren Kierkegaard. He was Danish, and he thought deeply about anxiety, not the everyday anxiety of deadlines and obligations. Though he knew that too, he was interested in existential anxiety, the anxiety that comes from being human, from being free, from having to choose. Kierkegaard had this image. He imagined a person standing at the edge of a tall cliff looking down, and in that moment the person feels two opposite things at once, fear of falling and a strange attraction to the possibility of jumping, not because they want to die, but because they're suddenly aware of their own freedom, the fact that they could jump, that nothing is stopping them except their own choice. That's the dizziness of freedom, Kierkegaard said, the vertigo that comes from realizing you are not determined. You're not on rails. You have to choose, and your choices matter, and there's no script telling you what to do. Breathe. Notice your body. You're not standing on a cliff. You're lying down, safe, in a quiet room. But maybe you felt something like what Kierkegaard described, not at a literal cliff, but in life. The moments when you realize you have to make a choice and there's no clear right answer. The anxiety of freedom, the anxiety of responsibility, the anxiety of not knowing if you're doing the right thing because there's no cosmic answer key to check against. For Kierkegaard, this anxiety was central to human existence. We are creatures caught between the finite and the infinite, between our animal nature and our spiritual aspirations, between time and eternity. And that tension creates a fundamental unease, a sense of being unsettled, of not quite fitting anywhere. Kierkegaard was a Christian, unlike Nietzsche. He thought the answer to this anxiety was faith, a leap into relationship with God, not through proof or certainty, but through trust. But even if you don't share his religious conclusion, his description of the problem remains powerful, the sense of being thrown into existence without instructions, the weight of freedom, the loneliness of choice. Let's move forward now into the 20th century, the century of world wars, of rapid technological change, of old certainties crumbling everywhere you looked. And in France, in the 1940s, a philosopher named Jean-Paul Sartre sat in cafes and wrote about existence. Sartre took the insights of Nietzsche and Kierkegaard and pushed them even further. He developed what he called existentialism, and at its core was one simple radical idea. Existence precedes essence. Let's unpack that. It sounds abstract, but it's actually quite concrete. Think about a tool, a knife, for example. Before the knife exists, someone has an idea of what it's for. They design it with a purpose in mind, cutting. So the essence of the knife, its purpose, comes before its existence. But human beings, Sartre said, are not like knives. We're not designed with a purpose already built in. We're not created according to a divine plan. We just exist first. We're thrown into the world. And then, through our choices, through our actions, we create our essence. We decide what we are. You are not a fixed thing. You're not a completed project. You're always in the process of becoming, always making yourself through what you choose to do. And this means, Sartre said, that you are radically free, absolutely free. You're free to define yourself, to change yourself, to create yourself in any direction. There's no human nature that determines what you must be. No essence written into you from the beginning, just existence and the freedom to shape it. Now you might think that sounds liberating, and it is in a way. But Sartre also recognized that this freedom is terrifying, because if you're completely free, then you're completely responsible. You can't blame your nature. You can't blame God's plan. You can't blame fate or destiny. Everything you are is the result of choices you've made. And if there's no script, no external guide, then you have to decide everything for yourself. What to value, what to care about, who to become. That's a heavy weight to carry, the weight of absolute freedom, the weight of creating meaning in a world that doesn't provide it for you. Let your shoulders relax, let your face soften. You don't have to figure this out right now. You don't have to make all your choices tonight. The existentialists weren't trying to make life harder. They were trying to describe what they saw as the truth. the actual condition of human existence in a world without predetermined meaning. And yes, it's heavy. Yes, it can feel overwhelming, but there's something honest about it, something clean. No false comfort, no pretending. Just the reality. You're here, you're free. And what you do with that freedom is up to you. For some people, that's the most nihilistic thing imaginable. A world where you have to create all meaning yourself feels like a world with no meaning at all. But for others, and this is where hope starts to creep back in, it's the opposite. It's the foundation of authentic meaning, meaning that you chose, meaning that's real because you made it real, not because someone told you it should be. We're not quite to hope yet, but we're circling it. We're starting to see the outline of how you might move through nihilism and out the other side. For now, just rest. Let these ideas float through your mind without trying to hold them too tightly. God is dead, Nietzsche said, and we're facing the abyss of meaninglessness. We're dizzy with freedom, Kierkegaard said, standing on the edge, feeling the pull of infinite possibility. We're radically free, Sartre said, and that freedom is both liberation and burden. These are not easy thoughts. These are not comfortable bedtime stories, but they're honest, and sometimes honesty is its own kind of comfort. You're not alone in feeling lost. Philosophers, some of the greatest minds in history, have felt it too, have stared into the same darkness, have asked the same questions. And they didn't all despair. They kept thinking, kept writing, kept searching for a way to live authentically in the face of uncertainty, and will keep walking with them through the darkness, towards something that might not be answers exactly, but might be something better. Acceptance, understanding, peace with not knowing. The night is long, we have time, and we're going to be okay. Let's stay in the 20th century for a while longer, because this is when the conversation about nihilism and meaning became most urgent, most alive. There was another French philosopher, a contemporary of Sartre's, named Albert Camus, and he asked what might be the most fundamental philosophical question of all. Should I kill myself? Not because he was suicidal, but because he wanted to know, if life is absurd, if there's no inherent meaning, why bother continuing? What keeps us going? What justifies the effort of living? It's a stark question, but Camus believed it was the only question that truly mattered. Everything else in philosophy is secondary to this. Breathe. Settle into your body. Remember that you're safe. These are just thoughts we're exploring together, ideas we can look at and then put down. Camus introduced a concept he called the absurd. The absurd is not the world itself. It's not human beings themselves. It's the collision between the two. We humans want things to make sense. We search for meaning, for order, for reasons. We want the universe to care about us, to respond to us, to acknowledge us. But the universe is silent, indifferent. It doesn't provide meaning, it doesn't offer explanations. It just is. That gap between what we want and what we get, between our need for meaning and the world's silence, that's the absurd. And once you see it, Camus said, you can't unsee it. Once you're aware of this fundamental disconnection, you're stuck with it. So what do? How do you live with the absurd? Camus saw 3 common responses, and he rejected 2 of them. The first response is suicide. If life is absurd, end it. Stop playing a game that has no point. But Camus said no. Suicide doesn't solve the problem, it just escapes it. It's a surrender. And more than that, it destroys the only thing that makes the absurd exist in the first place, your consciousness, your awareness. The second response is what Camus called philosophical suicide. This is when you make a leap of faith, when you decide to believe in God, in cosmic purpose, in some transcendent meaning, even though you have no rational reason to do so. Kierkegaard had advocated for this leap. Sartre understood it, but Camus rejected it. He saw it as a different kind of escape, a way of pretending the absurd doesn't exist. For Camus, honesty required facing the absurd directly. No escape through death. No escape through faith. Just clear-eyed acceptance of the reality. Life is absurd, and we're stuck with it. But here's where something remarkable happens. Here's where despair transforms into something else. Camus said that once you accept the absurd, once you stop trying to escape it or solve it, something opens up, freedom. If there's no cosmic meaning, then nothing is predetermined. You're not following a script. You're not fulfilling a purpose. You're just here, alive, free to do whatever you choose. And more than that, revolt. Revolt doesn't mean violence or anger here, it means defiance. It means saying, I see that life is meaningless and I'm going to live fully anyway. The universe doesn't care? Fine, I'll care. The world doesn't provide meaning? Fine, I'll create meaning. Not because I'm deluded into thinking that meaning is cosmic or permanent, but because I'm alive, and while I'm alive, I can choose what matters to me. Let your breathing slow. Let yourself rest in this idea for a moment. You don't need permission from the universe to care about things. You don't need a divine mandate to love people, to create beauty, to fight for justice, to find joy in simple pleasures. These things matter because you make them matter, and that's enough. That's actually more authentic than if they mattered because someone told you they should. Camus had this image that became famous, the myth of Sisyphus. In Greek mythology, Sisyphus was a king who angered the gods. As punishment, he was condemned to roll a boulder up a mountain. When he reached the top, the boulder would roll back down, and he'd have to start over, forever. It's an image of ultimate futility. Endless, meaningless labor. No progress, no completion, no point. And Camus said, this is us. This is human life. We push our boulders up our mountains. We work, we build, we strive, and then we die. And it all amounts to nothing in the cosmic sense. But then Camus said something unexpected, something that still surprises people when they hear it. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Happy? How could Sisyphus be happy? Because, Camus said, Sisyphus knows the truth. He's not deluded. He's not hoping that this time the boulder will stay at the top. He knows it won't, but he pushes it anyway. And in that moment of pushing, of striving, of fully engaging with his task even though he knows it's futile, he finds something. Not meaning in the cosmic sense, but meaning in the human sense, the meaning of the struggle itself, the meaning of being fully alive, fully conscious, fully present in the act of pushing. The boulder belongs to him. The task is his, and in accepting it, in owning it, in refusing to be broken by it, he becomes free. He's not happy because his situation is good. He's happy because he's chosen to affirm his life anyway, to say yes to existence even in the face of absurdity. That's revolt. That's the absurd hero. Not someone who finds cosmic meaning, but someone who lives fully without it. You might be pushing your own boulder, going through your own cycles, waking up, working, trying, and sometimes feeling like you're just rolling the same stone up the same hill. And maybe like Sisyphus, you can find a strange freedom in that, not by pretending it has ultimate meaning, but by choosing to engage with it fully anyway. By caring about your work even though it's impermanent. By loving people even though everyone dies. By creating beauty even though it fades. By being kind even though the universe doesn't notice. These acts don't need cosmic justification, they justify themselves. They're good because you experience them as good. They matter because you experience them as mattering, and that experience, that lived reality, is more real than any abstract meaning could ever be. Before we move on, there's one more voice we should hear. Someone who faced the absurd in its most extreme form and found a way through. His name was Viktor Frankl. He was a psychiatrist from Vienna, and during World War II he was imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps. He lost almost everything: his freedom, his possessions, his wife, his family. He was surrounded by unimaginable suffering and death, and in that hell, he made an observation. Some prisoners gave up. They lost the will to live, and they died. But others, even in the same conditions, found a way to endure. What was the difference? Frankl concluded that those who survived, who maintained their humanity even in the camps, were those who had found some meaning in their suffering. Not that the suffering itself was good, not that it was justified or meaningful in some cosmic sense, but that even in the midst of it, they could find something to live for. After the war, Frankl developed a form of therapy he called logotherapy. The word logos means meaning. His central idea was simple but profound. The primary drive in human beings is not pleasure, as Freud thought, or power, as Adler thought. It's meaning. We can endure almost anything if we have a reason to endure it. We can face suffering, loss, even death, if we believe there's meaning in it. And meaning, Frankl said, can be found in three ways. First, through creating something, through work, art, contribution, giving something to the world. Second, through experiencing something or someone, through love, beauty, connection, receiving something from the world. Third, and most importantly, through the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. When we can't change our circumstances, we can still choose how we respond. We can face suffering with dignity, with courage, with grace. And in that choice, in that stance we take toward our pain, we find meaning. Frankl had this insight that even when everything external is stripped away, there's one freedom that can never be taken: the freedom to choose your attitude. The Nazis could control his body, his environment, his circumstances, but they couldn't control his inner life, his thoughts, his dignity, his choices about who to be in the face of horror. That's not the same as saying suffering is good. It's not romanticizing pain. It's simply acknowledging that even in the darkest circumstances, humans have agency. We have the capacity to find or create meaning. And that capacity, Frankl believed, is what makes us human. It's what allows us to transcend nihilism without denying the reality of suffering or meaninglessness. You don't need to be in a concentration camp to apply this. You can apply it to any suffering, any difficulty, any moment when life feels pointless. You can ask, what meaning can I find in this? How can I grow from this? Who do I want to be in the face of this challenge? Let your body soften. Let the weight of these ideas settle gently around you. We've moved through the heart of modern nihilism, the death of God, the absurd, the void, but we've also begun to see the responses, the ways that thinkers have found to live authentically in the face of meaninglessness. Camus says, revolt, accept the absurd and live passionately anyway. Frankl says, find meaning, even in suffering. Even in the darkest places, humans can choose their attitude. These aren't solutions in the sense of making the problem go away. Nihilism doesn't disappear. The absurd remains absurd. Suffering is still suffering. But these thinkers show us that we don't need the problem to disappear. We just need a way to live with it. A way to be human in the face of it. And maybe, just maybe, that's what hope actually is. Not the belief that everything will be okay, but the choice to engage with life fully, even knowing it won't last, even knowing there's no cosmic guarantee. The night is still here. You're still here. And we're going to keep walking together through the darkness toward a kind of peace that doesn't require answers. We've been walking through Western philosophy, through the landscape of European thought about meaning and meaninglessness. But there's another way to think about emptiness. Another tradition that has been contemplating the void for even longer than the West has been thinking about nihilism. Let's travel east now, to a completely different philosophical landscape, to places where emptiness is not something to fear but something to understand, something to embrace. This might feel different from what we've been discussing. That's okay. Let the shift happen gently. Let yourself settle into a new way of thinking. In Buddhism, there's a concept called sunyata. The word is usually translated as emptiness. When Western people first hear about this, they often misunderstand. They think it's nihilism. They think Buddhism is saying nothing exists, nothing matters, everything is void. But that's not what sunyata means at all. Emptiness in Buddhism doesn't mean nothingness. It doesn't mean non-existence. It means something more subtle, more profound. It means that things are empty of independent, permanent, unchanging existence. Let's slow down and feel what this means. Look at anything around you. If you have your eyes open, maybe you can see a wall or the ceiling. If your eyes are closed, think of your own hand. That thing seems solid, separate, permanent. It seems to exist on its own, independent of everything else. But Buddhism asks, does it really? Your hand is made of cells. Those cells are made of molecules. Those molecules are made of atoms. Those atoms are mostly empty space with tiny particles of energy moving through it. And those particles came from somewhere, from food you ate, from air you breathed, from your parents who gave you the DNA to build this body, from the earth that grew the food, from the stars that created the elements. Your hand is not separate. It's a temporary gathering of elements that came from everywhere and will return to everywhere. It's empty of separate, independent existence. It only exists in relation to everything else. Breathe. Feel your breath. Feel how it connects you to the air around you, to the trees that made the oxygen, to the whole breathing world. This is what emptiness means. Interdependence, interconnection, the absence of separate, isolated existence. Nothing exists on its own. Everything arises because of causes and conditions. Everything is constantly changing, constantly becoming something else. Your body now is not the same body you had 10 years ago. Not a single cell is the same. You're a river, not a rock, always flowing, always new, and your thoughts, your feelings, your sense of self. These two are empty of permanent, independent existence. They arise, they change, they pass away. They're influenced by everything around you, by your biology, your experiences, your culture, your circumstances. There's no fixed, unchanging essence at your core. No permanent soul substance that stays the same through all change. That might sound frightening, like you're being told you don't exist, but Buddhism isn't saying you don't exist. It's saying you don't exist in the way you think you do. You exist, but not as a separate, independent, permanent thing. You exist as a process, as a pattern, as a temporary gathering of conditions that will eventually disperse. Let your body relax deeper. Let your sense of boundaries soften just a little. The Buddhist teaching of emptiness is not meant to create despair. It's meant to create freedom. If you're empty of fixed, permanent existence, then you're not stuck. You can change, you can grow, you can become. If things are empty of independent existence, then you're connected to everything. You're not alone. You're part of the vast web of causes and conditions that make up the universe. And if everything is impermanent, constantly arising and passing away, then even suffering is impermanent. Even pain changes. Even difficult emotions pass. The Buddha taught that realizing emptiness leads to liberation, to the end of suffering. Not because suffering stops existing, but because you stop clinging to things as if they were permanent. You stop trying to hold on to what must inevitably change. You learn to let things be what they are, temporary, flowing, empty of inherent existence, but full of momentary presence. There's a famous Buddhist text called the Heart Sutra. It's very short, but it contains the essence of this teaching about emptiness. It says, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. This is a paradox, but it's pointing to something real. Things have form. They appear, they exist in this moment. You can see them, touch them, experience them, but they're also empty. Empty of permanence, empty of independent existence, empty of fixed essence. Both are true at once. The world is real and unreal, present and empty, solid and fluid. Understanding this doesn't mean checking out of life. It means engaging with life more fully, but with less grasping, less fear, less desperate clinging. Because you understand that everything is already in the process of changing, already letting go, already returning to the vast emptiness from which it arose. And that's not tragic. That's just how things are, the nature of reality. Let's move to another Eastern tradition now, Taoism from ancient China. The Taoists had their own way of thinking about emptiness and action, about being and non-being. There's a concept in Taoism called Wu Wei. It's usually translated as non-action or effortless action, but it doesn't mean doing nothing. It doesn't mean being passive or lazy. It means acting in harmony with the natural flow of things, not forcing, not straining, not trying to impose your will against the grain of reality. Think of water. Water doesn't force its way through obstacles. It flows around them. It finds the path of least resistance. And yet over time water carves through stone. That's Wu Wei. Soft power, natural action. Doing what needs to be done without struggle, without ego, without attachment to results. The Tao Te Ching, the central text of Taoism, says, "The way never acts, yet nothing is left undone." This is the paradox of Wu Wei. How can you accomplish everything by not acting? It's not really about not acting. It's about acting from a place of deep alignment with how things naturally are. When you fight against reality, when you try to force things to be different than they are, you create suffering. You waste energy. You make things harder than they need to be. But when you accept reality as it is, when you work with it rather than against it, things flow. Not because you're doing nothing, but because you're doing the right thing at the right time in the right way. You're in the zone, as we might say today, in flow, fully engaged but not straining, present but not forced. Breathe. Notice how breathing is Wu Wei. You don't have to force it, you don't have to think about it, it just happens, naturally, effortlessly, and yet it's essential. It keeps you alive. It nourishes every cell in your body. That's the power of non-action, of letting things be as they naturally are. The Taoists saw the universe as constantly flowing, constantly changing, like a river. And they believed that wisdom meant understanding the flow and moving with it, not against it. They weren't nihilists. They didn't think life was meaningless, but they didn't think meaning came from imposing your will on the world. They thought meaning came from harmony, from balance, from being in tune with the natural way things unfold. There's a humility in this, a recognition that you're not separate from nature, not above it, not in control of it, you're part of it. And the more you try to control, the more you disturb the natural balance. But when you relax into being part of the flow, when you let go of the need to control and dominate, you find a different kind of power, the power of alignment, of ease, of grace. Let's touch on one more Eastern idea before we move on, a concept from Zen Buddhism called Mu. Mu is a Japanese word that literally means no or not, but in Zen it points to something deeper. There's a famous Zen story. A monk asks a master, "Does a dog have Buddha nature?" And the master simply responds, "Mu." Now this is puzzling. According to Buddhist teaching, all beings have Buddha nature. So the master should say yes, but he doesn't. He says mu. Mu here doesn't mean no. It doesn't mean the dog lacks Buddha nature. It means something beyond yes and no, beyond being and non-being, beyond all dualities. It's pointing to a reality that can't be captured in concepts, can't be grasped by the thinking mind. Mu is the great emptiness, but not emptiness as absence, emptiness as pure potential, as the space from which all things arise and to which all things return. You don't need to understand Mu with your mind. You can't, really. It's not a concept to grasp. It's an experience to have. The experience of being present without needing to label everything, without needing to know what everything means, without needing answers. Just Mu, just this, just the bare fact of existence before you wrap it in words and concepts. When you lie in the dark and all the thoughts finally quiet down, there's a moment of Mu, pure being, pure presence, nothing to figure out, nothing to become. That's the great emptiness that Zen points to, not a scary void, but a peaceful openness, a space of possibility where anything can arise. Let yourself rest in that space now, not thinking about emptiness but feeling it, the quiet, the stillness, the open space of this moment. Eastern philosophy offers a different relationship to nothingness than Western nihilism does. In the West, nothingness is often seen as loss, as absence, as a terrifying void left when God dies and meaning collapses. But in the East, emptiness is understood as fullness, as interconnection, as the ground of all being. Things are empty because they're not separate. They're part of the whole. They're manifestations of the larger pattern, and that pattern doesn't need to have a cosmic purpose to be beautiful. It doesn't need to last forever to be precious. It doesn't need to mean something beyond itself to be worth experiencing. It just is. And in that isness, there's a kind of peace that doesn't depend on answers. The night is deep now. You've traveled far, through Western philosophy and Eastern wisdom, through nihilism and emptiness, through meaninglessness and flow, and maybe you're starting to sense something, a possibility, A way forward that's not about solving the problem of meaning, but about learning to live without needing it solved. We're not done yet. There's more to explore, more threads to follow, more ways of understanding how hope can coexist with nothingness. But for now, just rest. Let these ideas settle like sediment in still water. Don't try to hold them. Don't try to understand them completely. Just let them be present the way you're present in this quiet moment. Everything is empty. Everything is full. Both are true. And somehow, in that paradox, there's peace. We've walked through a lot of territory. Through Western philosophy that stares into the void. Through Eastern wisdom that embraces emptiness as fullness. And maybe you're wondering, where's the hope? How do we get from nihilism to something we can actually live with? The answer isn't a sudden revelation. It's not a trick or a shortcut. It's something quieter, something that's been emerging all along in the spaces between the ideas we've explored. Let your breath deepen. Let yourself settle more fully into this moment. We're not leaving the darkness. We're learning to see by its light. There's a kind of nihilism that people have started calling optimistic nihilism. The name sounds contradictory. How can nihilism be optimistic? If nothing matters, what's there to be optimistic about? But optimistic nihilism takes the core insight of nihilism, that life has no inherent meaning, and sees it not as a tragedy but as a liberation. Think about it this way. If there's no cosmic script, no divine plan, no predetermined purpose you're supposed to fulfill, then you're free. Free from having to be what others expect. Free from having to fit into someone else's idea of a meaningful life. Free from the pressure of living up to some impossible standard. The universe doesn't care what you do. That means you get to care. You get to decide what matters. Nothing has inherent meaning. That means you can create meaning. You can make your life mean something, not because it was always meant to, but because you choose to invest it with significance. This is what the existentialists were pointing toward. This is what Sartre meant when he said, existence precedes essence. You're not born with a fixed purpose. You're born as pure potential, pure freedom. And through your choices, through your actions, through the way you engage with the world, you create who you are. Authenticity in existentialist thought doesn't mean finding your true self. It means creating your true self. It means taking responsibility for your life, acknowledging that you're free to choose and that your choices matter because you make them matter. It means living with intensity, with commitment, with full awareness that this is your life and no one else can live it for you. The existentialists talk about bad faith. That's when you pretend you're not free, when you hide behind roles, behind excuses, behind the idea that you had no choice. But authenticity is the opposite. It's owning your freedom, embracing it, even though it's heavy, even though it's sometimes overwhelming. Breathe. Let your body soften. You don't have to become perfectly authentic right now. You don't have to figure out your whole life tonight. Just notice that you have choices, even small ones. Even in this moment, you can choose to stay awake or let yourself drift. You can choose what to think about or let your mind wander. You can choose to be gentle with yourself or harsh. These might seem like tiny choices, but they're yours. And in that small sovereignty, there's a kind of dignity. The existentialists would say, you are not a thing. You're an ongoing project, a continuous process of becoming. And that project never ends while you're alive. You're always in the process of creating yourself, moment by moment, choice by choice. That can feel unstable, like there's no solid ground beneath you. And that's true, there isn't. But maybe that instability is also freedom. Maybe the lack of fixed ground means you can move, change, grow, become something new. Let's return to Nietzsche for a moment. Earlier we talked about how he warned of nihilism, of the abyss we face when God is dead. But Nietzsche didn't stop there. He didn't want people to fall into the abyss. He wanted them to learn to dance on its edge. He developed this idea he called amor fati. It's Latin. It means love of fate, not acceptance of fate, not resignation to fate, but actual love. Nietzsche's idea was radical. He said, what if you could love your life so completely, so totally, that you'd be willing to live it again exactly as it is forever? Every moment, every pain, every loss, every mistake, every joy, every small thing, all of it repeated infinitely. He called this the eternal recurrence, the idea that this life, your life, repeats endlessly. Now he might have meant this literally, or he might have meant it as a thought experiment. Scholars debate this, but the power of the idea doesn't depend on whether it's literally true. The power is in the question it asks. Could you love your life enough to want to live it again? Not a better version, not a corrected version, this version, exactly as it is. That's a challenging question, maybe even a frightening one. Most of us, if we're honest, would want to change things, erase mistakes, avoid pain, take different paths. But Nietzsche is asking, what if you accepted it all? What if you embraced your life completely, without reservation, without regret, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours? Because this is the life you have, and fighting against it, wishing it were different, only creates suffering. Amor fati is about saying yes to life, all of it, the good and the bad, the beauty and the ugliness, the joy and the sorrow. It's about finding a way to love what is, rather than torturing yourself with what could have been or should have been. And when you can do that, when you can look at your life and say, yes, even this, even all of it, something shifts. You're no longer at war with reality. You're in alignment with it. And in that alignment, there's a kind of peace. Let your jaw relax. Let your tongue rest easy in your mouth. Let any tension in your face dissolve. Loving your fate doesn't mean everything is good. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try to change things or grow or improve your circumstances. It just means you stop adding the extra layer of suffering that comes from rejecting what already is. You stop the story that says this shouldn't be happening, or I shouldn't be this way, or life should be different. You work with what is. You start from here, from reality, not from some imaginary ideal. And paradoxically, when you stop fighting reality, you often find you have more energy to actually change things, because you're not wasting energy on resistance, on denial, on wishful thinking. You're just dealing with what's actually here, and that's often much simpler than dealing with what you wish were here. This brings us back to creating meaning, to optimistic nihilism, to the idea that freedom from inherent meaning is actually a gift. If nothing matters cosmically, then everything can matter personally. Your relationships, your work, your hobbies, your small acts of kindness, your moments of beauty, your quiet joys. These things don't need cosmic justification. They don't need to last forever, or change the universe, or be written in the stars. They just need to matter to you, and they do matter to you. You feel it, you experience it. That feeling, that experience is real. It's as real as anything gets, and you can choose to build your life around the things that feel meaningful to you. Not because someone told you to, not because it's your destiny, but simply because you choose to. You can choose connection over isolation. You can choose creativity over consumption. You can choose presence over distraction. You can choose kindness over cruelty. Not because these choices are cosmically mandated, but because when you make them, your life feels more alive, more real, more yours. Breathe slowly, in and out. Feel the simple reality of being alive right now. Creating your own meaning doesn't have to be some grand philosophical project. It can be as simple as deciding that you care about something, deciding that you're going to show up for someone, deciding that you're going to notice beauty when it appears. It can be as simple as choosing to be present in this moment, rather than lost in worry about the future or regret about the past. It can be as simple as treating yourself with kindness rather than harsh judgment. These are small choices, tiny acts of meaning-making, but they accumulate. They shape your experience. They create the texture of your life. And gradually, through these small choices, you build a life that feels meaningful to you. Not meaningful in some cosmic sense, but meaningful in the only sense that actually matters. Meaningful to you, here, now, in your lived experience. The existentialists also talk about something important. You don't create meaning alone. You're always creating meaning in relationship, with other people, with the world, with your circumstances. Authenticity isn't about being isolated. It's not about being independent of everyone and everything. It's about being real in your relationships, being honest, being present, being yourself rather than playing a role. When you connect with others authentically, when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, to be seen, to be known, that's where some of the deepest meaning is found, not because connection is cosmically mandated, but because we're social creatures. We're wired for connection. And when we experience genuine connection, it feels profound, it feels important, it feels like it matters. And it does matter. To you, to the other person, in this shared moment of being human together. That's enough. That's actually more than enough. That's everything. Let your whole body relax now. Let yourself sink deeper into rest. We've moved through the heart of the philosophical landscape, from ancient wisdom to modern despair to the possibility of creating meaning in the void. And maybe you can feel it now. The hope that doesn't deny the darkness, the yes that includes the no, the meaning that doesn't need cosmic permission. Life is absurd. Life is empty. Life has no inherent meaning, and life is precious. Life is full of possibility. Life is what you make of it. Both are true. The darkness and the light, the void and the fullness, the nihilism and the hope. You don't have to choose between them. You can hold both. You can live in the tension between them. You can find your way forward not by resolving the tension, but by learning to dance with it. The night is still here. But it feels different now, doesn't it? A little less heavy, a little more spacious. We have more to explore, more wisdom to touch on, more ways of understanding how to live well in the face of uncertainty. But you're already doing it. Right now, you're here, you're breathing, you're present. You're making meaning whether you realize it or not, just by being alive and aware. And that's enough for now. That's always enough. Let's slow down now. Let's come back to something very simple, something that's easy to overlook because it's so obvious. This moment, right now, this breath, this second of existence. The past is gone. It exists only as memory, as traces in your mind. You can't touch it, you can't change it, it's not here. The future hasn't arrived. It exists only as imagination, as projection, as possibility. You can't experience it. You can't live in it. It's not here yet. The only thing that's actually real, the only thing you can actually experience, is now. This moment, this breath, this sensation of being alive. Breathe. Feel the air moving. Feel your chest rising and falling. All the philosophy we've explored, all the ideas about meaning and meaninglessness, they're all pointing back to this, to the present moment, to what's actually here when you stop thinking about what should be here or what could be here. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote about it constantly in his private journals. He'd remind himself, you're worrying about the future, but the future doesn't exist yet. You're regretting the past, but the past is gone. All you have is now, and now is always manageable. Now is always bearable. It's only when you add the weight of past and future that things become overwhelming. The present moment, just this moment, is usually okay. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's difficult, it's just this one moment. And this one moment will pass and become another moment. Let your shoulders drop. Let gravity pull any tension downward and away. There's a Stoic practice sometimes called the last time meditation. It's simple but powerful. When you're with someone, when you're doing something, you imagine, what if this were the last time? What if this were the last conversation with this person? The last time you see this place? The last time you do this ordinary thing? Not in a morbid way, not to create anxiety, but to wake you up to the preciousness of what's actually here. When you think it might be the last time, suddenly you're not taking it for granted anymore. Suddenly you're paying attention, you're present, you're really here. You're not thinking about what comes next or what you need to do later. You're just here, now, fully engaged with what is. That's living in the present. That's what all these ancient philosophies, Buddhist mindfulness, Stoic practice, Taoist flow, they're all pointing to the same thing. Be here, be now, be present with what is, breathe, long and slow. There's nowhere else you need to be right now. The Buddha taught that most suffering comes from not being present. We suffer when we're lost in thoughts about the past, replaying conversations, regretting choices, wishing things had been different. We suffer when we're lost in thoughts about the future, worrying about what might happen, planning for contingencies, trying to control what hasn't happened yet. But the present moment, when you're actually in it, is usually much simpler than the stories in your head. In this moment, right now, are you okay? Not theoretically, not in the story about your life, but right here, right now, in this actual moment. Usually the answer is yes, or at least yes enough. You're breathing, you're here, you're alive. This moment is bearable, and that's all you ever have to deal with. This moment, and then the next moment, and then the next. Not all of them at once, not the whole overwhelming future, just this one moment. Let your face soften. Let your eyes relax behind your eyelids. There was a German philosopher named Martin Heidegger who thought deeply about death and authenticity. His writing is dense and difficult, but his core insight is simple and powerful. He said that most of us live inauthentically most of the time. We get lost in what he called the they. We do what they do. We think what they think. We want what they want. We follow scripts written by society, by culture, by other people's expectations. And in doing so, we lose ourselves. We forget that we're finite beings with limited time. We forget that we're going to die. We treat our lives as if we have infinite time, as if there's always tomorrow to become who we really are, to do what really matters, to live authentically. But Heidegger says, when you really confront your own mortality, when you accept that you will die, something shifts. Death becomes real, not as an abstract concept, but as your death. Something that will happen to you, something no one else can do for you. Take a breath. Notice that you're alive right now, that this moment of being alive is actually happening. When you accept your mortality, Heidegger says, you become free to live authentically, because you realize I don't have forever. This life is mine. This time is limited. I can't waste it living someone else's idea of who I should be. You become individualized. You step out of the they and into your own life. You start making choices based on what actually matters to you, not what you think is supposed to matter. You start living with intensity, with presence, with awareness that every moment counts because there are only so many moments. This is what Heidegger calls being toward death. It means living with full awareness of your mortality. And paradoxically, this awareness doesn't make life depressing. It makes life vivid, real, precious. Let your body settle deeper into rest. Let yourself be held by whatever surface you're lying on. You don't need to be morbid about death. You don't need to think about it constantly. But holding a gentle awareness that your time is limited can help you wake up to the present. It can help you stop postponing the things that matter. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop assuming you'll have time later. This is your life. This is your time. Right now, today, this moment, not someday, not when conditions are perfect, not after you've figured everything out. Now, and that's actually liberating, because it means you don't have to wait. You can start being present, being authentic, being yourself right now. Not perfectly, not completely, just a little more than yesterday, a little more real, a little more here. Breathe slowly. Feel the simplicity of being alive in this moment. There's wisdom in uncertainty. We often think we need to know, need to be sure, need to have answers before we can move forward. But life doesn't work that way. Life is fundamentally uncertain. You don't know what will happen tomorrow. You don't know how things will turn out. You don't know if your plans will work. And that's okay. That's just the nature of being alive. The Stoics taught that wisdom means accepting uncertainty, not trying to eliminate it, but learning to navigate it with grace. You make the best choices you can with the information you have. You act with good intentions. You do what seems right. And then you let go of trying to control the outcome, because the outcome is not fully in your control. What matters is not whether things turn out the way you hoped. What matters is whether you acted with integrity, with authenticity, with care. That's within your control. That's always within your control. Let your jaw relax, let your tongue rest gently in your mouth. When you stop needing certainty, something opens up. You stop being paralyzed by not knowing. You stop waiting for guarantees before you act. You start trusting yourself, trusting your ability to handle whatever comes, trusting that even if things don't go as planned, you'll find a way through. And ironically, when you let go of needing to know, you often get clearer about what to do, because you're not caught up in anxiety about the future. You're not spinning in your head trying to figure out every possible outcome. You're just present. And from that presence, intuition can arise, clarity can emerge. Not certainty, but a sense of direction, a sense of what feels right in this moment. And that's enough. That's actually more reliable than any intellectual certainty could be, because it's coming from your whole being, not just your thinking mind. It's coming from your lived experience, your values, your deep knowing. Breathe, long, slow breaths. Let each exhale release a little more tension. All of this, all these philosophies and practices, they're pointing to the same fundamental insight. Life is happening now. Not in your thoughts about life, not in your plans or memories or ideas, but here, now, in the actual lived experience of this moment. And when you come back to the present, when you drop into this moment, you often find that things are simpler than you thought. The problems that seemed overwhelming in your mind become more manageable when you're just dealing with what's actually here. The fear about the future loses its grip when you're fully present now. The regret about the past fades when you accept that this is where you are. And this is the only place you can start from. Let your whole body soften now. Let yourself rest more deeply. We've traveled through so much territory tonight. So many ideas, so many perspectives on meaning and meaninglessness. And they all circle back to this, to presence, to acceptance, to being here now with what is. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to resolve nihilism once and for all. You just need to be here, in this moment, breathing, aware, alive. And in that simple presence, there's a kind of peace that doesn't depend on having answers, a peace that comes from accepting reality as it is, including the uncertainty, including the not knowing, a peace that's available right now, not someday when you've figured everything out, but now, in this very moment. The night is quiet, your breath is steady, and everything you need is already here. We're going to continue walking together through these ideas, but more gently now, more slowly, with less urgency, because there's nowhere to get to, nothing to achieve, just this slow, gentle exploration, just this quiet time together in the dark, and that's enough. That's always been enough. Let's talk about something that often gets forgotten when we're deep in questions about meaning and meaninglessness. Other people. Connection. The simple fact that you're not alone. Even if you're lying in bed by yourself right now, even if the room is dark and quiet, you're connected to countless others. Connected through shared humanity, through shared questions, through the simple fact of being alive at the same time, on the same planet, facing similar struggles. That connection is real. It's not abstract, it's woven into your very existence. Breathe. Let yourself feel held by the earth beneath you, by the air around you, by the web of life that includes you. Buddhism teaches something called interbeing, the idea that nothing exists separately. Everything exists only in relationship to everything else. You couldn't exist without other people, your parents obviously, but also the farmers who grew your food, the people who built your home, the teachers who taught you language, the ancestors who passed down knowledge. You couldn't exist without the natural world, the air that gives you oxygen, the water that makes up most of your body, the sun that provides energy for all life on earth. You're not a separate, isolated thing. You're a node in an infinite web of connection, a temporary gathering of elements that will eventually return to the whole. And when you really understand this, when you feel it, compassion arises naturally. Compassion. The word comes from Latin. Com means with. Passion means feeling. To feel with someone. It's not pity. Not looking down on someone from a distance. It's recognizing shared experience, shared vulnerability, shared humanity. When you see someone suffering and you remember that you too have suffered, that you too know what pain feels like, that's the beginning of compassion. Not trying to fix them, not trying to save them, just being present with them, acknowledging their pain, saying through your presence, I see you. You're not alone. And here's something beautiful. Compassion doesn't just help the other person. It helps you too. When you step out of your own isolated suffering and connect with someone else's experience, your own pain often feels less overwhelming. Not because it goes away, but because you're no longer trapped alone with it. You're part of something larger, part of the shared human experience of struggle and resilience. Let your heart soften. Let any hardness around your chest dissolve just a little. In a universe that doesn't provide meaning, connection becomes one of the most meaningful things we have. Not because connection is cosmically mandated, but because we're wired for it. We need it. We feel it as important. When you connect authentically with another person, when you really see them and let yourself be seen, that matters. It matters in your body, in your nervous system, in your experience of being alive. And that experiential mattering is as real as anything can be. More real than any abstract meaning could ever be. You don't need the universe to tell you that connection is valuable. You feel its value directly. Breathe slowly. Let your breath be gentle and easy. Let's shift now to something even simpler, even more immediate. Beauty. Small beauty. The kind that appears in ordinary moments when you're paying attention. Maybe you've noticed the way light comes through a window at a certain time of day. The way shadows move across a wall. Maybe you've noticed the sound of rain on the roof, or the feeling of warm water when you wash your hands, or the taste of something simple like bread or tea. These small things don't need to mean anything to be valuable. They're just pleasant, just nice, just momentarily beautiful. And when you let yourself notice them, when you pause and really experience them, they add texture to your life. They add moments of lightness. There's a Japanese philosophy called wabi-sabi. It's about finding beauty in imperfection, in impermanence, in simplicity. Not the glossy perfection of advertising, not the stage beauty of social media, but real beauty, the beauty of things as they actually are. The crack in a teacup, the weathering of old wood, the wrinkles on an aging face, the way leaves decay and return to soil. These things are beautiful precisely because they're imperfect, because they show the passage of time, because they're real. When you train yourself to see this kind of beauty, the world becomes richer. You don't need special circumstances or perfect conditions to experience beauty. It's everywhere, in the ordinary, in the flawed, in the transient. A philosopher named Marcel Proust said, "The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes." You don't need to travel somewhere exotic to find beauty. You just need to look at where you are with fresh eyes, with attention, with openness. Let your eyes rest gently. Whether they're open or closed, let them be soft. Let your gaze be gentle. Finding beauty in ordinary moments is a practice. At first, it might feel forced. You might think, I'm supposed to notice beauty, so I'll notice this plant. Okay, done. But gradually, if you keep practicing, it becomes more natural. You start to genuinely see things, genuinely appreciate them. And these small moments accumulate. They add up. They create a sense that life, even ordinary life, has moments worth experiencing. Not because those moments solve nihilism, not because they prove life has cosmic meaning, but simply because they're pleasant. They're here. They're real. And that's enough. Small beauty is enough. It doesn't need to be more than it is. Let's talk about gratitude for a moment, but carefully, because gratitude can be misunderstood. There's something called toxic positivity. It's when people tell you to just be grateful or look on the bright side. while dismissing your real struggles. It's the pressure to pretend everything is fine when it's not, to suppress difficult emotions, to perform happiness. That's not real gratitude. That's denial dressed up as wisdom. Real gratitude is different. Real gratitude coexists with difficulty. It doesn't erase pain. It acknowledges both the hard things and the good things at the same time. You can be genuinely struggling and still notice something you're grateful for. Both can be true simultaneously. You don't have to choose between acknowledging your suffering and appreciating small goods. You can hold both. Breathe. Let your chest rise and fall naturally. Real gratitude is specific, not vague. Not, "I'm grateful for my life," as a generic statement you're supposed to make. But "I'm grateful that my body let me sleep last night." Or "I'm grateful my friend sent me a message today." Specific things, real things, things you actually experienced and appreciated. And you don't force it. You don't demand of yourself that you be grateful when you're not feeling it. You just notice when it happens naturally. When something genuinely feels good or helpful or kind, you let yourself acknowledge it, not to fix your mood, not to bypass your real feelings. Just as a simple recognition, this thing was good. This moment had something worth noticing. That's honest gratitude. It doesn't require you to be dishonest about the hard things. It just invites you to also notice the small goods that exist alongside the hard things. Let your whole body relax deeper now. Let gravity do its work. We've been talking about connection, about beauty, about gratitude. These might seem like separate topics, but they're all pointing to the same thing, to presence, to noticing what's actually here, rather than being lost in thoughts about what should be here. When you're truly present, you naturally notice connection. You naturally see beauty. You naturally feel gratitude for small things. Not because you're trying to be spiritual or philosophical, but because those things are actually there, and presence lets you see them. Most of the time, we're not present. We're lost in our heads, in stories about the past, in worries about the future, in judgments about how things should be different. And when we're lost in those stories, we miss what's actually here, the simple, immediate reality of this moment. But when you come back, when you drop into presence even for a few seconds, there's often something surprisingly okay about right now. Breathe. Long, slow breaths. There's no rush, no pressure. You might notice sounds around you, maybe distant traffic, maybe the hum of appliances, maybe silence. You might notice the temperature on your skin, warmth or coolness, the texture of fabric against your body. You might notice the weight of your body, how it's being held and supported. These sensations don't mean anything. They're just here, just present. Just real. And somehow in noticing them, in being with them, there's a settling, a softening, a quiet sense of being here now, alive, not solving anything, not becoming anything, just being. This is what we've been circling toward all along, through all the philosophy, all the different traditions, all the different perspectives on nihilism and meaning. We've been spiraling slowly toward this simple truth. You're here, now. And that's enough. Not enough to satisfy intellectual questions about the meaning of life, but enough to be present with, enough to experience, enough to live. The questions don't go away. Nihilism doesn't disappear. The absurd remains absurd. Life remains uncertain, impermanent, without cosmic guarantee. But in the midst of all that, there are these small things, connection, beauty, presence, breath, and they're real, they're here. They're worth noticing, not because they solve the philosophical problem, but because they're what life actually feels like when you're paying attention. Let yourself rest deeply now. Let any remaining tension drain away. We're moving toward the end of our time together. Not yet, but gradually, gently descending toward sleep, toward rest, toward letting go. There's more to say. A few more threads to gather. A few more reflections to offer. But less and less new information, more and more invitation to simply be, to rest in the not knowing, to rest in the uncertainty, to rest in the simple fact of being alive, here now without needing all the answers. The night is deep, you're safe, and you're not alone. Countless others have walked this path before you. Countless others are walking it now, feeling the same questions, facing the same uncertainty, finding their own small ways to be present with what is. And you're part of that, part of the vast web of human beings trying to make sense of existence, trying to live well, trying to find moments of peace in the midst of the unknown. That's enough. You're enough. This moment is enough. We're going to slow down even more now. Less exploring, more settling, less new ideas, more gentle return to what we've already touched. Because maybe you're tired, maybe your thoughts are becoming quieter, maybe you're drifting in and out of what we're saying here, and that's exactly right. You don't need to hold on to anything. You can let it all flow through you like water, like breath, like the night itself. There's something the Stoics understood deeply, something simple but profound. You can only control a very small portion of your life, your own thoughts, your own actions, your own responses to what happens. Everything else is outside your control, other people's choices, the world's events, the future, even your own body to a large extent. And the Stoics said, wisdom means knowing the difference, knowing what you can change and what you can't, what's worth your energy and what isn't. Most suffering comes from trying to control what can't be controlled, from fighting against reality, from insisting that things should be different than they are. But when you accept what you cannot change, when you truly accept it, something releases. Breathe. Let your shoulders drop. Let your whole body soften into acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean you like everything. Doesn't mean you approve of everything. Doesn't mean you stop caring. It just means you stop fighting against what already is. You acknowledge reality as it actually exists, not as you wish it would exist. And from that place of acceptance, you can actually respond more effectively, more clearly, more skillfully. Because you're not wasting energy on denial. You're not caught in the loop of this shouldn't be happening. You're just dealing with what is, and what is always simpler than the story about what should be. The philosopher Montaigne understood this. He wrote about the freedom that comes from letting go of trying to control outcomes, letting go of needing everyone to approve of you, letting go of the constant pressure to be more, do more, achieve more. He said that peace comes from within, not from arranging the external world perfectly, not from getting everything to go your way. You can't control whether people like you. You can't control whether your plans work out. You can't control the future, but you can control how you relate to all of that. You can choose to release your grip on what was never really in your hands anyway. And in that release, there's a lightness, a freedom, a sense of not carrying so much weight. Let your jaw soften. Let your tongue rest. Let any clenching anywhere in your body dissolve. Letting go is not giving up. You can still care, still try, still work toward things, still hope for good outcomes. But you hold it all more lightly. You do what you can, and then you release attachment to the results. You plant seeds, but you don't control whether they grow. You just plant them with care, and then you let go. This is wisdom. This is peace. This is how you move through life without being constantly exhausted by trying to control everything. You focus your energy where it actually matters, where you actually have influence, and you accept the rest with grace. Breathe slowly, long, easy breaths, nothing to hold, nothing to force. There's another layer to this, something about paradox, about holding contradictions. Life is full of paradoxes, things that seem opposite but are both true at the same time. Life is meaningless and precious, empty and full, absurd and beautiful, tragic and comic. You are free and you are limited. You are powerful and you are small. You matter and you're insignificant. Our thinking minds want to resolve these contradictions, want to choose one side or the other, want everything to make logical sense. But reality doesn't work that way. Reality contains paradox. It holds opposites simultaneously. And wisdom means learning to do the same, learning to hold both, learning to think in terms of both and rather than either or. Let your eyes rest. Let your face be completely soft and still. You can acknowledge that life has no cosmic meaning and still find it personally meaningful. You can accept that everything is impermanent and still cherish what's here now. You can understand that you're not in control and still take responsibility for your choices. You can feel grief and gratitude at the same time. You can be uncertain and still move forward. You can be broken and whole simultaneously. These aren't contradictions you need to resolve. They're paradoxes you learn to live with. And when you stop trying to make everything fit into neat categories, when you stop demanding that reality be simple and logical, something relaxes. You become more flexible, more adaptable, more able to hold complexity. Breathe, just breathe. Let the air move through you. All the philosophy we've explored tonight, all the different traditions and perspectives, they've all been pointing toward the same kind of wisdom. Accept what is. Let go of what you can't control. Hold paradox without needing to resolve it. Be present with reality as it actually exists. Not as escapism, not as passive resignation, but as active engagement with life on life's terms. The Stoics said it, the Buddhists said it, the Taoists said it, the existentialists in their own way said it too. Stop fighting reality. Stop insisting that life should be different. Stop trying to control what can't be controlled. Just be here. Just be present. Just do what you can with what you have, and let the rest go. Let your whole body sink. Let yourself be held by whatever is beneath you. You might notice something now, a quieter quality to your mind, a softer quality to this moment. You've been listening for a long time, walking through ideas, following threads, and maybe now you're ready to just rest, to stop seeking, stop figuring out, stop trying to understand everything. Just rest in the simple fact of being here, being alive, being present in this quiet night. Everything we've talked about, it's all been a kind of permission. Permission to stop carrying so much weight. Permission to accept uncertainty. Permission to be human, which means being limited, being finite, being uncertain. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to resolve nihilism once and for all. You don't have to create perfect meaning or live with complete authenticity every moment. You just have to be here, now, as you are, imperfect, uncertain, doing your best. And that's enough. That's always been enough. The universe doesn't demand perfection from you. Life doesn't require you to have all the answers. You can just be, just exist, just move through your days doing what feels right, being kind when you can, noticing beauty when it appears, connecting when connection is possible. Small things, simple things, human things. That's the life that's available. Not some grand cosmic drama, not some perfect philosophical existence. Just this, just the ordinary, imperfect, uncertain, beautiful life of being human. Breathe, slow and steady. Let each breath be complete. We're near the end of our journey together. Not quite there yet, but approaching, gently descending. The darkness outside is still dark. The night is still night. Nothing has changed in the external world, but maybe something has shifted inside. Maybe something has softened. Maybe the questions feel a little less urgent, a little less overwhelming. Maybe you can rest now, knowing that you don't need all the answers tonight, that you can hold the questions gently, that you can live with uncertainty without being destroyed by it. Let your breathing become even slower, even softer, like you're barely breathing at all. Nothing to figure out, nothing to solve, nothing to become. Just this quiet presence, just this simple being here, just the gentle fact of existence, happening now, without needing to mean anything more than what it is. And that's okay. That's more than okay. That's everything. The night holds you. The darkness is gentle. And you can rest now. You can let go now. You can simply be. Everything else will still be there tomorrow. But right now, right here, there's just this. Just breath. Just being. Just peace. Rest is not weakness. Rest is not wasted time. Rest is essential. The ancient philosophers knew this. Epicurus, who we met earlier, taught that sleep is one of life's natural pleasures, a necessary good, a restoration, not something to resist or minimize, not something to feel guilty about. just a natural part of being alive. Your body needs to rest. Your mind needs to rest. And right now, in this moment, you're allowing that. That's not laziness. That's wisdom. That's self-care. That's being kind to yourself. Breathe slowly. Let your whole body be heavy. Let yourself sink. Rest is active in its own way. When you rest, your body repairs itself. Your brain processes experiences. Your nervous system regulates. Your heart settles. All of this happens without your conscious effort, without your control. You just have to allow it. You just have to stop, to lie down, to close your eyes, to let go. And in that letting go, in that surrender to rest, something heals. Not all at once, not dramatically, but quietly, gently, in ways you might not even notice. Let your jaw release. Let your tongue be soft. Let every muscle soften. We've walked through so much tonight. So many philosophies, so many perspectives on meaning and meaninglessness. And maybe you're wondering, what am I supposed to do with all of this? What's the answer? What's the conclusion? But there's a poet named Rilke who wrote something beautiful about this, about questions and answers. He said, in essence, don't seek the answers right now. You wouldn't be able to live them yet anyway. The point is to live the questions, to be patient with all that is unresolved in your heart, to carry the questions with you gently, like companions, not like burdens. Breathe, slow and deep. There's no rush to understand everything. You don't need to resolve nihilism tonight. You don't need to figure out the meaning of life before you fall asleep. You can just live with the questions, live with the uncertainty, live with the not knowing. And gradually, without forcing it, without demanding it, you might find that you live your way into the answers. Not intellectual answers, but lived answers, embodied answers, the kind of understanding that comes from experience, not from thinking. You might find that the questions themselves change, that they become less urgent, less frightening, less overwhelming, because you've learned to hold them, to live with them, to carry them without being crushed by them. Let your eyes rest. Let all striving cease. Let yourself simply be. Uncertainty is not your enemy. Our minds want certainty, want to know, want to be sure, want to feel safe. But life doesn't offer that kind of certainty. Life is fundamentally uncertain, always has been, always will be. And when you stop fighting that, when you stop demanding certainty, something opens up. You become more creative, more flexible, more able to adapt and respond. You become more curious, more open, more willing to learn and grow because you're not defending a fixed position. You're not clinging to what you think you know. You're just present with what's actually here. Breathe. So gentle now, barely breathing. Embracing uncertainty doesn't mean you don't have values, doesn't mean you don't care about anything. It just means you hold your beliefs more lightly, more humbly, with more openness to being wrong, to learning, to changing. And that humility, that openness, it makes you more human, more connected, more real, because you're not pretending to have it all figured out. You're not performing certainty that you don't actually feel. You're just being honest, being vulnerable, being human. And in that honesty, there's a strange kind of peace. Let your body rest completely now. No tension anywhere. Just softness. Just release. All night we've been circling the same territory. Nihilism and hope. Emptiness and fullness. Darkness and light. And what we've found is that you don't have to choose. You can hold both. Life is meaningless in one way and meaningful in another. Both true simultaneously. The universe is indifferent, and your experience is precious. Both real at the same time. You are free and you are limited. You are powerful and you are small. You matter and you're temporary. These paradoxes don't need to be solved. They just need to be lived. Breathe. Barely audible now. Almost silent. You can rest now. You can let the questions rest with you. They'll still be there tomorrow if you need them, but right now they can settle. They can be quiet. Right now, there's just this. Just the darkness. Just the quiet. Just the gentle rhythm of breath. No answers needed. No understanding required. No meaning to create or discover. Just being. Just existing. Just this moment of rest. Let go of everything. Every thought, every question, every concern. The night holds you. The darkness is safe. You can release your grip on everything. Release your need to know. Release your need to understand. Release your need to be anything or do anything. Just rest. Just be. Just breathe. Everything else can wait. The world will still be there tomorrow. Your life will still be there tomorrow. But right now, right here, there's just this. Just peace. Just quiet. Just rest. You've done enough. You've thought enough. You've questioned enough. Now you can rest. Now you can sleep. Now you can let it all go. The philosophers will still be there. The questions will still be there. The search for meaning will still be there. But you don't have to carry them into sleep. You can set them down. You can just be here. Just be now. Just be. Breathe. So soft. So slow. Almost not breathing at all. Nothing to figure out, nothing to solve, nothing to become. Just this quiet moment. Just this gentle darkness. Just this peaceful rest. You're safe. You're okay. You can let go now. Let go. Let go. Let go. The night is deep. You are held. Everything is okay. Rest now. Sleep now. Be at peace. The questions can wait. The world can wait. Everything can wait. Right now there's just rest, just breath, just being. And that's enough. That's everything. That's all there is. Rest, sleep, be. You're doing perfectly. You're exactly where you need to be. Let the darkness hold you. Let the quiet embrace you. Let sleep come when it comes. No rush, no pressure. No need for anything to be different than it is. Just this. Just now. Just peace. Breathe. Rest. Let go. Everything is well. Everything is okay. You can release everything now. Sleep is coming. Or maybe it's already here. It doesn't matter. You're safe. You're held. You're at peace. Rest now. Sleep now. Be free. You're still here. Still breathing. Still present in this quiet night. And that's beautiful. That simple fact that you're here, that you exist, that you're alive in this moment. It doesn't need to mean anything more than what it is. It doesn't need cosmic significance. It's just here, just real, just this moment of being alive. Breathe. Let the breath be effortless. Let it happen by itself. We've traveled far tonight, through ancient wisdom and modern philosophy, through darkness and light, through nihilism and hope. And maybe you remember some of what we talked about. Maybe you've forgotten most of it. Both are fine. This wasn't really about remembering information. This was about the feeling, the sense of companionship, the sense of not being alone with these big questions. Countless others have walked this path. Countless others have wondered about meaning and meaninglessness. Countless others have faced the darkness and found ways to keep going. You're part of that long lineage. Part of the human story of questioning, searching, wondering. Let your body be completely still. Let all movement cease except for breath. What we've discovered, if we've discovered anything, is that hope doesn't require certainty. You don't need to know that everything will be okay. You don't need to believe that life has cosmic purpose. You can hold uncertainty and still move forward. You can acknowledge meaninglessness and still find meaning in small things. Hope is not naive optimism. It's not pretending everything is fine when it's not. Hope is the choice to stay present, to keep showing up, to engage with life even when you don't have answers. Hope is saying, I don't know what anything means, but I'm here anyway. I don't know if it matters, but I'm going to care anyway. Breathe. So gentle, so easy. Life is strange. Being human is strange. We're conscious beings in an unconscious universe. We search for meaning in a cosmos that doesn't provide it. We care deeply about things that won't last. That's absurd. That's paradoxical. That's the human condition. And you can fight against it. You can rage against the unfairness of it. You can despair at the emptiness of it. Or you can accept it, not with resignation, but with grace, with humor even, with a kind of tender compassion for the strange predicament we're all in. Let your face be soft. Let any trace of tension dissolve. You don't have to figure yourself out completely. You don't have to become perfectly enlightened. You don't have to transcend your humanity. You can just be human, imperfect, uncertain, doing your best. That's enough. That's always been enough. The universe doesn't demand more from you. Life doesn't require you to be anything other than what you are. You can make mistakes. You can change your mind. You cannot know what you're doing. You can feel lost sometimes. All of that is part of being human. All of that is okay. Breathe. Barely there. Like a whisper. We talked about so many philosophies tonight, so many different approaches to the question of meaning. The Stoics said, accept what you cannot change, focus on what you can control, live virtuously. The Buddhists said, everything is impermanent, everything is interconnected, let go of clinging. The Taoists said, flow with nature, don't force, act without effort. The existentialists said, you're free, you're responsible. Create your own meaning. Camus said, the world is absurd. Revolt anyway. Live passionately. Frankl said, even in suffering you can find meaning. You can choose your attitude. Let everything rest. Let all these ideas rest. They're all pointing towards something similar. Something about acceptance. Something about presence. Something about living fully even without guarantees. They're all saying in their own way, you can do this. You can live with uncertainty. You can face the darkness and still find light. Not because the darkness goes away, but because you learn to carry a light of your own. The light of awareness, of presence, of caring even when things don't matter cosmically. That light is small, it flickers. It's fragile, but it's yours. And it's enough. Breathe. Almost sleeping now, almost gone. You can rest in the not knowing. You can rest in the uncertainty. You can rest in the questions. They don't need answers tonight. They might never need answers. They're just part of being human, part of being conscious, part of being alive. And you can carry them gently, like stones in your pocket, like companions on a journey. They don't have to weigh you down. They don't have to crush you. They can just be there, present but not overwhelming, real but not terrifying. Let go of every thought now. Let the mind become quiet. The philosophers are sleeping too. The questions are resting. The whole world is quiet in the darkness, and you're part of that, part of the great silence, part of the peaceful night. You don't have to be anything right now. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to understand anything. You can just be. Just rest. Just let yourself drift. Drift into sleep. Drift into dreams. Drift into the gentle darkness that holds us all. Breathe. So soft. Almost nothing. You're safe. You're held. You're okay. Everything we've talked about, it's all been saying one thing. You're not alone. You're part of something larger. And you can rest. Rest in the knowing that you don't need to know everything. Rest in the acceptance that life is uncertain. Rest in the simple fact of being here. Rest now. Sleep now. Let everything go. The night is complete. The darkness is whole. And you are part of it. Let sleep come. Let consciousness fade. Let yourself dissolve into rest. There's nothing more to do. Nothing more to think. Nothing more to be. Just this. Just now. Just peace. Rest. Sleep. Dream. The questions will wait. The world will wait. Everything will wait. Right now there's only this, the gentle darkness, the quiet breath, the soft release into sleep. And that's everything. That's all there is. That's all you need. Good night. Rest well. You're exactly where you need to be. Still here. Still breathing. Still drifting in this gentle space between waking and sleep. You might be mostly asleep now. You might be barely hearing these words. Let them wash over you like water, like waves. You don't need to hold on. Breathe, without effort, without thought. The darkness is kind tonight. The quiet is soft. Everything is. You've walked through so much, through philosophy and wisdom, boxes, and now you can rest from all of it. Let it all go. The search for meaning can pause. The question mind can finally be still. Let your body sink deeper, heavier, more relaxed than before. nihilism and hope. We explored both, and what we found is simple. You don't need certainty to live well. You don't need cosmic meaning to care about. You need to be present, to be kind, to notice what's here, to keep. That's always been enough. Breathe, like the rhythm of the earth itself. All the philosophers, all the wisdom traditions, they were trying to help you see something simple. Life is what it is, not what you wish it were, not what it should be, just what it is. And when you stop fighting that, when you accept reality on its own terms, peace becomes possible. Not perfect peace, not permanent peace, just this moment of peace, this breath of peace, and then another, and another. Let everything soften. Let all resistance fade. You are held by the darkness. You are supported by the earth beneath you. You are part of the great web of life that includes everything. You're not separate. You're not alone. You're not lost. You're right here, right where you've always been, right where you need to be. And you can rest in that knowing, rest in that connection, rest in that simple truth. Breathe. Barely breathing now, almost still. Sleep is close. Maybe it's already here, touching the edges of your consciousness. Let it come. Welcome it. Don't resist it. Sleep is natural. Sleep is healing. Sleep is where the mind lets go of everything. And in that letting go, there's a kind of wisdom. The wisdom of not needing to know. The wisdom of surrender. Let your eyes be still. Let your face be peaceful. We talked about emptiness, about the Buddhist understanding that everything is empty of separate existence. You are empty too, empty of fixed identity, empty of permanent self. And that's not frightening. That's freedom. That's the spaciousness in which everything arises. You can change, you can grow, you can become, because nothing is fixed, nothing is final. Even this moment is already becoming the next moment. Even now is already dissolving into then. Breathe. So quiet. So still. We talked about creating meaning, about choosing what matters, about living authentically. And maybe you'll do that tomorrow. Maybe you'll make choices. Maybe you'll create meaning. But right now, you don't have to create anything. You don't have to choose anything. You don't have to be anything. You can just rest. Just be. Just dissolve into this moment. Let your mind become empty, like a clear sky, like still water. All the words we've shared tonight, they're just sounds now, just vibrations in the air. They don't need to mean anything anymore. They can just fade away, like echoes. What remains is simpler than words, simpler than philosophy, simpler than any idea. Just this, just presence, just the fact of being alive, breathing, here. Breathe. Almost imperceptible now. The night holds everyone, all the sleeping people, all the dreaming minds, and you're part of that, part of the great rest, part of the collective surrender to sleep. It's okay to let go. It's safe to drift away. It's good to sleep. Tomorrow will come and you'll wake and life will continue. But right now there's only this, only rest, only peace. Let go. Let go, let go of the questions, of the searching, of the need to understand. Let it all dissolve. Let it all fade. Let it all become nothing. Because nothing is okay. Nothing is peaceful. Nothing is where everything rests. Not nihilistic nothing, just empty, spacious, peaceful nothing. The nothing from which everything comes and to which everything returns. Breathe, or don't breathe. It doesn't matter. Your body knows what to do. You're safe. You're held. You're complete. Nothing is missing. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be different. This moment is whole. You are whole. Everything is whole. And you can rest in that wholeness, rest in that completeness, rest in that peace. Sleep now. It's time. It's okay. Let consciousness fade. Let awareness dim. Let yourself slip away into the darkness. The darkness is gentle. The darkness is kind. The darkness holds you like a mother. You can trust it. You can surrender to it. You can let it take you. Rest, sleep, peace. All is well. All is complete. All is exactly as it needs to be. You don't need anything else. You don't need to do anything else. You don't need to be anything else. You are enough. This is enough. Everything is enough. Good night. Sleep well. You are loved by the darkness. You are held by the night. You are part of everything. Rest now. Rest completely. Rest forever in this moment. Breathe. Sleep. Be.